Freud compared psychoanalysis to archaeology, but why? This is what Freud explores in Constructions in Analysis. Construction in Analysis, written in 1937, was a response to critics because they were saying that in psychoanalysis, if the patient agrees with the analyst, then the interpretation given to the patient is correct. But if the patient disagrees with it, then it's resistance. In this paper, Freud said that critics argued that psychoanalysis had a heads I win, tails you lose mentality, meaning analysts always claim to be right because, according to critics, analysts take a patient's agreement as confirmation and rejection as resistance. This paper was also written as later career reflections, since it was written 2 years before Freud's death, representing a mature reconsideration of psychoanalytic techniques. This paper, Constructions in Analysis, talks about the goal of analysis, the task of the analyst during analytic work, the material used for analytic constructions, the reactions of the patients to the analytic constructions, the clinical mistakes, and the difference between interpretation and the analytic constructions. In this paper, Freud talks about the goal of analysis, which is to help patients overcome repressions from their early development and replace them with mature responses, mature reactions, by recovering forgotten early experiences. In this way, it allows patients to behave in a more mature way. The analyst's role is to construct the forgotten past from surviving traces that emerge during analytic sessions via free associations. Freud compares this process to an archaeologist excavating a buried building. Freud said that both psychoanalysis and archaeology are identical because, just like the archaeologist excavate the remains of ancient materials to piece together what was lost, the analyst also pieced together fragments of the patient's speech. However, according to Freud, the analyst works under more favorable conditions because they deal with living material that was made inaccessible in the unconscious mind through repression. Now, the constructions are communicated to the patient in order to move the analysis forward. The material used for constructions are gathered by listening deeply to patients during analytic sessions where clues appear in free associations, as well as in the transference developed with the analyst, and also the repetition in behavior, since during analysis patients talk about how they behave in relationship with others, offering clues to repetitive relational patterns, and also the slips of the tongue that reveal unconscious formations. Through these fragments, the analyst gradually makes constructions of the aspects of the patient's lost childhood history. In this paper, Freud details how to evaluate a patient's yes or no to a construction given by the analyst. A direct yes is not always a definite confirmation, as it may be provisional or superficial. A direct no is not always rejection, but it can be a manifestation of resistance or just incompleteness, since the patient hasn't remembered everything of their traumatic past. A true confirmation often appears indirectly, such as through future associations that align with the analytic construction, or producing new memories that extend the construction. Or when a patient say, "I never would have thought of that." According to Freud, offering an incorrect construction is hardly harmful. The patient typically remains unaffected, allowing the analyst to admit the mistake and correct it when new material arises during analytic work, especially because of the way patients naturally react to such mistakes, errors. When presented with a wrong construction, a patient often reacts as though they were untouched by what has been said, by saying a yes or no, since analytic constructions are viewed only as hypotheses awaiting examination. The analyst does not claim absolute authority for them or argue with a patient who rejects them, as the truth is expected to become clear during the work of analysis. In this paper, Freud also gives us the difference between interpretation and construction. Interpretation applies to single elements such as a slip of the tongue, also called parapraxis, or associations during analysis. Now, constructions involve giving to patients hypotheses of their forgotten early history, early experiences, and linking the fragments of the patient's speech together. These fragments also come from associations, parapraxis, but constructions are hypotheses of what could have happened in the past. This hypothesis is to help patients recall the past trauma. This video is the final part of the series on Freud's paper on technique. The next video will bring together all of Freud's papers on technique with a short summary of each one.